Let's go. All right, guys. Come on. Oh, that's cool, Joel. I like it. Do something. All right. Good morning, everybody. Apparently, Comcast is having a power outage throughout Illinois, but it doesn't seem to. We're smart entrepreneurs. We can figure out a workaround. As I say that, probably this live feed will cut. But no, we're grateful to have everybody on this jam session. Obviously, being the almost near November, a lot of stuff to talk about real estate wise. Our mission statement, our platform is to connect, elevate, and inspire just like-minded entrepreneurs and businesses who support realtors. There are many numerous industries that when a real estate transaction is done to help get that transaction across the finish line. And so we're grateful to have Joel and Ross on here. I'm literally going to set the table, get out of the way, and being middle of November, there's an endless. We're not going to get to everything real estate wise, but we'll cut this feed at 10:15, and I'm excited for the knowledge bombs that are going to be dropped on here. So I'm going to have the realtors introduce themselves very briefly to kick this off. Then I'll have our partners go, and then we are going to start talking shop. So that all being said, Karen, if you would be so kind, please, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Thanks for having me on here. So my name is Karen Schwartz, and I'm currently with Greentown Realty. I started my career in real estate. I worked for a builder from 2005 to 2014, and then I've been selling resale residential from 2015 to now.
I'm Emily Ackerman. Thanks again for having us on today. I work for Compass and previously held my license with App Properties for 5 years, and I've been with Compass for now 3. So I'm about to start my 8th year in selling real estate.
I'm Leigh Marcus with App Properties. I've been in the business 15 years now.
Go ahead. I'm at Laricy. I work at the Leigh Marcus group. Been working with Leigh about 15 years now.
We need to talk about your numbers later today.
I'm working on it. I got to catch you.
Thank you.
I'm Kevin Hinton of the Fair Hinton Group, Chicago, Milwaukee. I'm with Keller Williams One Chicago. 6 years in the business. I was a golf pro my whole life prior, so that's what I did before.
Thanks. And we pride ourselves in being a non-pay-to-play platform for realtors. Almost every realtor I talk to, it has paid for some sort of branding in a publication, which is not a good or a bad thing. It's just how the industry works. So what we do is we partner with businesses who support realtors, and we're nothing without them. Let me just say that. And so I'm actually glad that Joel and Ross are on this one simultaneously, because they've been supporting us through our first year. I think Ross, when we met at Bang Bang Pie Shop, we didn't even have a magazine yet. Is that right? I want to say.
Correct.
Yeah, Ross goes, I think you'll make, Andy, you look like a smart guy, which I don't know if that's true or not, but I think you'll make this work. So I'm extremely grateful for the support that we've had. So Joel, actually, before I do that, I'm going to do this. People ask me still to this day. I show this on every single jam session that we do, and we put it in the publication every month. Do you guys have an online version? And the answer is no. We are a private publication that goes to the top 500 producing realtors in our market. However, we do have an app. So you can actually access, spoiler alert, that's the November issue right there. You can actually access all the past issues from our app. It's called Digipub. It's free to download. They'll probably start charging for it eventually, but currently it's free. So I've been encouraging everybody, even if you never look at it, just set up an account and you'll have access to all the previous issues. There's all the jam sessions on there. I think we've just uploaded the first 20. So it's kind of cool. You can kind of see the progression of all the jam sessions before we even started doing them Facebook Live. So, and the partners are the ones inadvertently who supported the app. You guys don't know this, but we're always trying to innovate ways to, help businesses gain more exposure in the real estate market. So I'm going to allow Joel and Ross to introduce themselves, and then I am going to get out of the way. Joel, go ahead, man.
Hey, everybody, Joel Schaub, mortgage specialist. I've been at Guaranteed Rate now in the 17th year, and just big props to Andy for putting this on. We've done a couple of these, and it's just crazy to get so many people in a room and really share some knowledge. So excited to be here today.
Hey, everybody, Ross Neag, Chicago Building Inspections. Been in real estate for 22 years, inspecting full-time for 13. And I don't know if we were advertiser number one. It's always great to see you. Thanks for putting this together.
And that's it. This is the part where I shut up because let's face it, when I talk, people do not gain knowledge, and you're not here to see me. So Leigh, you had some good talking points when we were pre-gaming. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off, and we'll kind of ebb and flow from there, my man.
Sure. I mean, some of the things I think wanted to jump into is just maybe predictions or market comparison of this year versus next year. And so why don't we start with the guru on Laricy on what he thinks it's looking like for 2022.
My thoughts? Yeah. I think I'm dubbing 2022 as the year of the condo. I think the condo's coming back. It's been 2 straight years where condo sales have been low. It's unnatural for the suburbs to outpace cities. Single family homes sales have been like out of control recently. Leaders who can attest to it. And the fact that River North, Sherville, Gold Coast, most of Old Town, parts of South Loop and parts of West Loop in the entry level marketplace, we've had inventory as high as 24 months for a while. It's never happened in history ever. And the fact that the media kept telling you that nobody would ever live in cities again, it all reminded me of 2011 when people said nobody would ever buy in America again, and that we were going to be a rental nation. The American dream was dead. And the trends are there. You've seen inventory levels drop consistently every single month in the high-rise market. So I think, I'm not saying it's going to be a seller's market for high rises, but I think it's the year of the comeback for condos. I think people that are concentrated on single family home sales, watch out, because I think those sales aren't going to be as high as normal, but I think condos are going to come raging back. It's my biggest prediction.
Awesome. Excellent. Yeah. And anybody else want to jump in on their thoughts for 2022?
I'll say something. I agree with Laricy. I do think, I think it was obviously it was so dead at the beginning of the year. There was so much inventory, and I don't do as many high-rise condo sales, but now I have some buyers that are looking, and things are getting to be multiple offers. I think people are starting to recognize that maybe those deals of lowball offers are just kind of coming to a halt. And just with the lack of good inventory, anything that's been somewhat updated, or if people can stomach getting contractors in to do some work, I feel like if they can get a good price, you kind of have those two different things. Somebody who has updated something is going to go super quickly, and somebody who will spend the time and has the money and patience to update something and can get a good deal will take those off the market. So
Exactly. And so what are you seeing as, you mentioned, people that want to update properties, or the ones that are updated are selling really well. For the ones that are not updated, ones that would need work, what do you think the discount or the premium is for the ones that are updated?
that's a great question, because I feel like any of my listings right now that aren't selling, even if it's just one updated bath, I feel like we're priced below market right now. Whereas in the beginning of the year, if that was the case, they probably still would have gone off the market. But now buyers are just so picky. And I think they hear from everybody, it's okay, it's impossible to get contractors. It's $20 million to update something. So I think they just need to know what the reality of the situation is. And if it's a bathroom that needs updated, I honestly don't know what that discount or premium would be. Probably leave it up to the numbers guys. But yeah, it has to be, I think, a little bit below market right now.
Awesome.
Remember though, that this is fall market. So every year, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I hate fall buyers and I hate spring sellers, right? Because fall buyers, the world's ending and nobody's ever going to buy anymore. And then spring sellers are the cockiest people in the entire world.
Almost cockiest people in the entire world.
Yeah, almost. So, but it's I think we have to realize that, this is a good time to try to tell your sellers, if they've been sitting for a while, to pull it and try to get their places updated, because this is a time of year where contractors charge lower. And, Chicago being the most rent heavy city in the country per capita, and most people's leases come due end of March, April, May, first part of June. If they can update it during the holiday season, they could put it back on the market for spring, which spring starts January 4th. You know, I think it's gonna be pretty crazy. I think something else we need to watch out for when we're talking about this is that the fact that this time last year, rents were at a 20% lowest point in history, and today they're at a 5% high. And a lot of these people got these COVID deals, and they're coming up and looking down the barrel of a gun of saying, hey, April 1st, my lease is due. My rents might increase 25% in some ways. They have to tell their buildings that by February 1st, that they're going to be out. So right now we're experiencing kind of like really picky, jerky buyers and like sellers who are really desperate. And what we're telling all of our buyers is like, you have maybe 45 days where you have control, and come January 3rd or 4th, every single broker you're going to run into is going to be the cockiest person they've ever met with. They're going to tell you how busy they are. So, I mean, if you're going to update, this is the time to do it. And I mean, we're all about to probably experience nervous breakdowns in about 45 to 50 days. So also enjoy the time off while you can.
Yeah. And I mean, and just kind of circling back to the updated kind of remodeling conversation, it's still an interest rates story. You know, a $50,000 upgrade in the kitchen is $175 a month. So if you're not, you know, financed, if you can afford that. So, I mean, if you're not updated, you just don't stand a chance, because people have good income, good jobs, their borrowing power is pretty high. So who would, you know, the premium is extreme if your place isn't updated.
So,
way more costly to update.
Kevin, okay, so you want me to do the cabinets, you want me to do the, you know, countertops maybe, and maybe a bathroom, but am I going to get my money back? How do I know I'm going to get my money back?
You know, wish I had a crystal ball. Yeah, I mean, that is the hard conversation, right? I can come up with lines in here and there. It is very delicate when you're spending other people's money. I mean, that is just a fact, you know? So like you tackle the basics, right? Like you got to redo your floors, you got to paint from head to toe. And then now what, right? Is there something just else that's agreed?
So is that the order that you would do it, right? So hey, if I'm going to do one thing, and maybe we jump over to Emily. Emily, if I'm going to do one thing in my place, right? What would be the one thing you would recommend?
Kitchen and bathrooms. You know, that's where people spend the most time. I think through COVID and some of the values that have been shifting in the past couple of years, people are spending more time at home and they're entertaining, they are cooking more. And I think if you want to get a higher return on your investment, whether that's in a few years, whether that's, you know, this next spring, I think kitchen and bathrooms by far, and always a new fresh coat of paint helps.
Yeah. Awesome. Laricy, Matt, anything you want to add to that?
You know, when you talk about how much money you're going to get back, I like what you said about like how I'm a very conservative person, like by trade, like I'm not a risk taker by any means. So I always tell people that you should plan on getting 50 cents on a dollar back. So every dollar you spend, you get half back. I think a lot of brokers tell you're going to get $3 for every dollar you spend. And honestly, Leigh, and you know this too, like you're really listing heavy, you take them over because somebody told them that they're going to get that. But I would say 50 cents on a dollar. But the biggest difference is, let's say you lose $12,000 on that rehab. You may have dropped, you wouldn't think twice if you got to drop 15 grand on price to sell, or it could be the reason somebody sells. And I think a big thing that realtors forget to advise their clients on, what's a really real cost is overhead costs, right? If we sit on this for 6 months, it becomes a math equation. Let's back out the math and see how much it'll cost you to hold this for 6 months. Or if you sell it in 2 months and you spend extra money and you lose it there, what do you actually make? And honestly, right now, especially, you know, we sell a ton of high rises. A big thing we talk about all the time is I say, it's a math problem. Let's put it on paper, work out the math, and where are you going to lose money more? That's the conversation. It's like a doctor delivering cancer all the time. That's what I'm doing all day long. I'm like, how much is the least amount of money you're going to lose to get this off your plate? And unfortunately, that's just a conversation we have to have. And nobody likes telling somebody like, let's spend a bunch of money and not get it back. But in some instances, I think it's worth it.
Let's go over to Joel for a moment. So Joel, you're seeing, like, obviously you see a lot of appraisals come by your desk, right? Do you see like, oh, that 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo kind of is selling on the high end of that range? Oh, it's updated. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Laricy nailed it. I mean, in the beginning of the year, this is what you see. The sellers can demand the world from every single buyer. And right now we do have about a 45-day period in which, if you're a buyer, we've been teaching our clients to get ready and go out and buy something. I like buying my suits on sale. I like buying my shoes on sale. I teach them, let's go and buy some real estate on sale. And you don't have much time to do it. And if you're working with pros like you guys, you can absolutely help them find properties for this period. But once you get into the new year, I mean, what date did you say, Matt? It starts when now? When's the spring market?
the very first Monday back, which I think is January 3rd or 4th this year.
Isn't that crazy?
I'll tell you, and we're all going to see it. Is all of a sudden it's like we're completely dead. That week between Christmas and New Year's, everybody's kind of like, "Fuck, man, am I gonna have a good year next year?" You kind of get nervous for a second there. You know, you're like, "I think it's gonna be good," and all of a sudden that Monday hits, and it's like it goes from 0 to 100 right away, and that's when you see every broker who's like, I honestly, right? Brokers are normally much more testy at that first couple of weeks back. People are, you get yelled at a lot more, and it's just because like we're just not used to just going back quick, and you're just stressed as shit, and it's gonna happen really quick on us. So I keep trying to tell everybody I talk to, just get prepared for it, because it's gonna happen. The more you're prepared, the more you're building your business today to take advantage of it next year is gonna only help you guys out.
Perfect. Why don't we go over to Ross for a moment? Ross, like when people we're just talking about adding value to a home, and in terms of, trying to get a higher sale price or just giving a higher chance of selling from an inspection standpoint, right? Do you see a certain pattern where people do things in a certain way that you guys don't, that you guys have a red flag, or anything you want to add on that?
Well, without being critical, I mean, we're always looking at things a little bit differently than agents and resale. So this past 18 months, we've seen more renovated properties than ever before. A lot less kind of, fixer-uppers or things ready to be kind of handed over to someone that's going to take those renovation reins. I think the modern buyer, if you will, is really looking for one and done. I want to settle in and get back to work, and they're willing to pay for it. And yeah, it's the product out there is much cleaner, and our price points as a company have increased tremendously. I'm not saying we're not seeing entry level stuff, but the stuff well over 7 figures is probably up somewhere between 300 and 350% in the last 18 months.
Thank you. Huge. And then while we're on you, just for one more moment of like the conversation of what can agents do to make your job easier or prepare their buyers before the inspection to make what you do easier.
So I guess I've always heard it somewhat of a red flag in terms of not wanting to know issues. I think if you can call it a pre-listing inspection, but we really kind of call it like a macro inspection. Walk through, like maybe no report, send us a bullet list of 10 to 15 things that would potentially be red flags, or something that is going to come up, as we understand, in negotiation or an inspection report, right? Everybody expects some wear and tear. Nobody cares about a 15-year-old water heater. But if there's something with a stain, it will freak people out.
Yeah. Matt, you seen that too? Obviously, water intrusion, number one concern.
Water intrusion is all we ever deal with, my friend. I'm getting an email right now about a water spot on the ceiling from an inspection. So yes, I think if you have a big single family home, and Leigh, you're good at this too, is like you have like a pre-inspection of the house. But the biggest problem I think right now that we're running into with inspections is that, because we're in the fall, you have like a normal, let's say even just like a 1 bed or 1 bath or 2 bed, 2 bath condo, and you get these lists, and it's pretty basic shit on there, right? And your clients are freaking out. My clients are freaking out. I'm not saying I'm not, bashing other brokers because their clients are, but it's just like, I think inspection at this time of year is legitimately the hardest issue, because people are fighting over like GFCIs, and all of a sudden they cost $50 now they're, $2,000 to fix. And I think prepping your buyers and trying to have your buyers understand that, like, listen, like a lot of these issues aren't big. We have a conversation with our clients before they go on to an inspection and say, like, you're going to have 100 things wrong with this. Like, just know it. And that, like, we're not going to be able to get everything back. And I'm not going to hear you bitch and complain about it. And I'll be honest, we get fired sometimes. I'm not joking, just because I'm not dealing with it. I'm past the point in my career where I'm going to like sit there and like have somebody completely nitpick it. And unfortunately, I think a lot of brokers, though, don't have that big boy conversation with their clients. And even during springtime, you get these obnoxious lists sent back to them. And at the end, and the last point on that, I think it's necessary that brokers have a good conversation between each other. Too much is done between the attorneys. So like, I know if I have a difficult client, okay, it's going to happen to all of us. And my client asks for the world, I call up the other agent and say, hey, listen, my client's a baby. Okay. Like, he's asking for too much stuff. I need you to help me out here. Don't bite my head off. Just tell me what we could do to try to make this work, so we can't have this like deal die. The problem that I think we run into why inspections are so tough these days is that when you have the difficult client and the asks are obnoxious, you're calling up the other broker and you're yelling at them as if like it's their fault these things are wrong. And I think that's the biggest reason why a lot of these things fall apart at this time,
Yep. So like blaming the other agent, right? For that instead of like trying to be collaborative.
That's why I'll tell you right now. That's why I yell at a lot of people all the time. It's like I get called up. I'm getting screamed at. I'm like, what are you yelling at me for? Jesus Christ! And then of course I'm gonna yell back. But like I mean, I think the communication level lately, like especially this fall, and it happened again this spring. It was a nice summer. I felt like people were nicer. But like just a way that like agents can try to work together on inspection issues. It's probably the biggest problem that I see. We do a ton of transactions. I just see these people just flip out on this.
Yes.
And I think if agents can try to work with it, or even like, I think the education level is tough because real estate's gotten so good lately. So there's so many new brokers in here. Ad has it, Compass has it, where it's these first deal that I actually had a deal die not too long ago where it died at the walkthrough. It was the agent's first deal, and like he didn't know what he was doing. And like, I think we need to try to work with them and educating them on how the inspection works. I think could be a helpful thing for inspectors, is like have an inspection class for agents to actually understand what these things are.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. I think that there are a lot of new buyers who are out there, and even, people read these headlines and just the general environment of the market. Everyone feels like it's a super hot market. And I think that a lot of buyers have felt like they've been overpaying or, this past year and a half. And so they feel entitled to get everything on that inspection list. And I think I couldn't agree with Laricy more about, agent to agent having more conversations. Not that it's, a seasoned agent job to, educate these newer agents that are coming on. But I'm doing a deal with a brand new agent right now. She whispers in my ear as we're walking into the inspection, this is my first deal. And I can't decide if I want to lick my lips, or I'm like, oh shit, this could really turn into a mess. And so I decided to take the avenue of helping guide her and talk through these issues. And thankfully we're out of attorney review. But no, I agree. It's buyers. It's interesting to see what people feel passionate about.
And that's a great point, Emily, because we were all new at some point, right? We all had everyone's had their first deal, and like having the guts to tell the other agent on the other line, this is my first deal. Like that's, so you're right. Just being the bigger person and being happy to help and jump in.
Working together and collaborating, because ultimately, you can take the opportunity to try and take advantage of someone, or you can help, move things along. And ultimately it's your client, their client, everyone who's benefiting.
Yeah, I totally agree too. I think like, I never understood it, like when there's like this like broker versus broker mentality, because like we're all like working to like get to the same common goal for each of our clients. So the smoother that we can make it for everyone, I think everyone benefits. So I totally agree with what everyone said too.
And then I think, by show of hands, how many people in here, is this their best year so far in real estate? So far? Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that for a moment. Yeah. So how has everyone grown their business this year? What would you attribute that to besides the market, Karen?
I mean, so many different things, probably what we're all benefiting from. So I think we were all anxious with like when COVID started that like everyone's moving out of the city and what's going to happen. Everyone's moving out of Chicago. Like I've honestly never had so many transactions that have been retraded like within 1 year. So like I would have clients that moved out to the suburbs, now they're moving back to the city, or they bought a condo and now they need to upgrade sooner than they thought. So my repeat and referral business, that's typically how the majority of our business comes in, but it's, it's at an all-time high. So repeat buyers totally like have been helping with the business this year.
Awesome.
Yeah, Emily and I kind of sat down at the start of the year, or in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, minus all the other things for everybody else in the world, like it's the best thing that ever happened to our business. Because we sat down and not only do we have income goals, but we tried to create massive leverage for ourselves first to start with, and then our team and everyone kind of through people. And we did a bunch of stuff, 2 agents are assigned to every deal, all sorts of things. And it's been great. And it was the perfect timing because people are used to working from home and not having to be face to face. And then the challenge is to not revert back to, I don't know how many properties I sold this year that I never walked in the property, listing side, buyer side. And it's kind of a limiting belief that people think that you can't sell real estate that way, but nobody walks into the Apple store and expects Tim Cook to sell them their iPhone, right? So if you have quality products and quality people, You know, my goal is to never be, you know, in a couple of years, just never step foot in the property again. Then I can live anywhere I want in the world. So that's been great for us. That's kind of our core belief, and make customer service better along the way.
So you would say leverage for you was one of the best things?
Yeah, that was everything. That was everything. Yeah.
Matt?
I mean, first off, I gotta tell you, I mean, we're definitely way up this year than last year, but I mean, I'm excited for next year because I mean, 60% of my business comes from the high rise market, and I'm having the worst year ever for high rises. Like, it's not even close. I mean, the market is like, I mean, again, I could sit here and tell you, like, sound cocky, like, hey, like how many sales I've had in high rises, blah, blah, blah. But I look at the average, how many have listed to not sold, not just my own listings, but the market in general is the worst of all time. So the fact that we're up this much this year and my main market is at the lowest in history, I'm like giddy for next year to see like how good it's going. Because as I said, the condo is going to have the comeback next year. But we kind of knew going into this what was going to happen this year. We had a prediction of, I compared it to Game of Thrones, that the outskirts would have a really good market and the heart of the city would be surrounded by gates, and that would be like the hardest hit and would be really terrible. So what we did is we prepped our systems to take advantage of the smaller buildings and the single family homes as we anticipated that market to be really hot. And at the same time, we tried to save as many high rise listings and, you know, relationships as we could, and brace them for what was going to come and how the year was going to play out. And we took advantage of it. And we're doing the same thing going into next year. Is we're now pulling all of our inventory. Every piece of high rise real estate I have on the market, I'm pulling as we speak. And we're going to sit in the pockets and wait, kind of like wait in the weeds for everybody else to come back right after the first year. So I think what you should be doing in the fourth quarter is planning for 2022, or like last year, what we did is we planned for 2021, and we looked for all of our weak spots. We looked at what we could do better at. We looked at what we can improve on. We asked clients, what do we think we weren't doing strong that you think we could be better at? And then we put the systems in place. Like we hired another assistant, we hired another agent, et cetera, to try to take advantage of that. And I think if you do that and you really have that harsh, you know, kind of conversation with yourself, is like, where are my weak spots? That's only gonna be the way you're gonna grow. Because let me tell you something right now, is that by February of next year, if you realize like you have weak spots, there's no time to improve on them at that point. Now is the time to improve on them. And that's what I think the exciting thing is. And I think anybody that's out there listening to this, I think that you really need to focus, especially from Turkey Day to the end of the year, of what can you do to take advantage of that first week back, because that's where you get people lose a lot of business. And the only other thing I will say that I loved about the pandemic is that it's gotten rid of us going to closings, which I used to go to all the time, and I will never go to a close again. And I think about how much time I've saved. I literally probably save 20 to 25 hours a week is what we counted from not going to closings, and how much more business that's got.
I used to think you used to Photoshop yourself in those photos with your clients and stuff. You actually were like there.
I was there. I mean, you'd work on a computer and you kind of be in conversations. And then we just kind of realized, like, you know, kind of like Kev says, like some of the stuff, like I used to think like it was a huge ordeal to be there. I really did. And just like everybody, like you learn from stuff. And I realized that like I think brokers and mortgage people that were there at the closing only slow it down. And in fact, most of my clients are like, I love that I was in and out in like 10 minutes and I have to talk to anybody. That's like almost what everybody says right after closing, because I always like call them right afterwards. And I'll tell you guys, like that to me could be a possibility of why we've grown like a lot, is not having to sit there in those closings.
I mean, you save 25 hours a week. Hopefully you've grown, Matt, you know, if you can.
I mean, it's a lot of time though. Think about how many times you're at these closings and how much it takes.
I mean, Matt, and kind of just to circle back on leverage, like we make up stories in our head of like, well, my clients want me there. Like that's normal. So like they need me there. All pick an example, and agents will try to take away leverage from you. You know, I don't know why we're like one of the biggest major markets where people don't use lock boxes consistently, and they do in the stuff. Like it's you know, two agents don't need to be in the same room very often. You know, so you know, whatever. Just silly example. Yesterday, put a deal under contract, and you know, the agent, you know, I want to do the inspection on Wednesday. You know, where's the earnest my details? I'm like, I'm not answering that, because you're going to get an email from a transaction coordinator connecting every party, and I'm not engaging in you taking away from my leverage. You've got till Friday to put in the earnest money. I don't care about earnest money. Like, so agents will try to take away your leverage if you let them. So anyways.
Nice. Very, very true. And so protecting that time. Yeah. Jumping over to Joel back for a moment for loans, jumbo loans. Like what want to talk about? Ross had a question before we started just about jumbos and like what he thinks is coming. Joel, if you want to talk on that too.
Well, you guys are the ones that are doing this the best. You guys lead with education, right? You're being honest with the buyers. And I'll make a hot take right now. You know, this is a lot of your people are selling the fear that rates are going to go up drastically. And I'll tell you now, rates are not going up next year. Okay. They're not. So you can lead with fear, or you can be honest and say, right now, even if rates are in that low to 3% range, we're not going to see buyers continue to rent. What's the rate of return on rent? It's 100%. If you're renting, the interest rate's 100. So I'm telling you now, it doesn't matter if rates are at 3.25, 3.75, 4.75. It's still going to be a great year to buy next year. And the big thing that happened was with that increase in loan limit up to 625, I've had agents tell me, well, why do I care about that? But my buyers have always been able to borrow over 625. First time buyers with 5% down and credit scores down to 620. It's a big thing. So if you don't understand the difference between a jumbo and a conventional loan, reach out to your loan officer that you work with the most and make sure that they explain it, because you're leaving things on the table if you're not helping your clients understand this.
Shoot, I've been telling everybody that rates are going up and to try to use it as urgency for my buyers to buy. So it's good to hear that. Stop doing it, because it's about leading with education, and all of your competitors are doing that. Does anybody else on this do the same thing, saying, let's hurry up and buy because rates are going up? That's not to throw Karen under the bus, right? That's something that a lot of people would think to do. Does anybody else do that?
I don't think I necessarily lead with fear, but that is in the back of my mind. Not to throw you under the bus, Karen. I think I necessarily lead with fear, but that is in the back of my mind. Karen, I necessarily lead. I was just saying, I'm hearing a recording of myself. I don't know if you can say that. No, what I was going to say is it's more about education and more of a numbers game. Okay, if you decide to extend your lease for 6 months, what are you paying out of pocket versus purchasing this property that checks 9 out of your 10 boxes now, and that price differential. So I try and approach it from that perspective, and maybe even showing them the difference of rates if they decide, if they ask me for that information, than anything.
Awesome. Switching over, I know, Emily, you mentioned, obviously you've been on a few panels and what's the most common question you get from newer agents?
How to build my business.
So how do you build your business?
Good question. Well, we could be here till 12 talking about that. I think
in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. My two big pieces of advice is getting a mentor. They're hard to come by. I think there are a lot of leaders in real estate who want help, but they don't realize what mentorship involves. My partner, Kelly Parker, and I, we have a team of 6, and we kind of have a divide and conquer, where I help the girls work in their business. The other woman on our team, Kelly, helps them work on their business, and we approach it from that perspective, full mentorship, guidance, and that sort of approach. And then I think my second piece of advice is that there's not one specific recipe that works for everyone. Choose a couple things that you feel confident in, that you're really good at, and stay consistent. It's going to take a while to really reap the benefits, and working those avenues, I think, will help you feel, more accomplished and focused.
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you. Karen?
I'm huge on client relationships. And again, like we don't spend a lot of money on marketing for leads or just in general. So the majority of my time is spent trying to nurture previous client relationships or build future client relationships. So it's a lot of time spent, I love client gifts. I probably spend the majority of my money on client gifts and referrals. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge source of kind of building our business, just trying to keep those current clients to become future clients or repeat clients, and just have them refer all their friends. I started out with, I guess, first-time buyers in 2015 when I started selling resale. And so all those people then are referring their friends who are first-time buyers. Now they're reselling their homes, and now they're, referring their friends to do that too. So it's like a sell buy. So client relationships for me are the biggest way to build my personal business.
Awesome. Yep, definitely. Matt, what would you say?
For new agent, learn the business. I would say the first 4 years, you should hope to maybe get one sale. It should be a college education. Everybody gets a license and you're like, what do I do with it? Right. I know when I'm my first 4 years in the business, it's not a joke. My first 4 years in the business, I made $17,000. It's the truth. It's a true story. And I think I had like 4 or 5 sales. But you get your license and everybody just thinks they're going to be this, $100 million hitter. And of course, if you talk to any one of those agents, they're all $100 million hitters, it drives me crazy because you do these deals with them and they actually don't know what they're doing. And I will say, like Karen, and Emily made a great point. Like everybody has different ways. Like I don't like to hang out with clients or anything like that or do anything. But I will tell you is that we get a lot of clients because they're like, we like our bro. I'll have people say this to me. Not everybody that's going to work with you is going to like you, right? I mean, that's the reality. When you start doing some serious numbers, it's going to be true. Well, we'll have people say to us, we don't like you the most, but we know that you know what you're doing. Most brokers don't know what they're doing. I would probably say one of the number one reasons I get business is because I actually know what's happening in the market and I actually know the business. And for new brokers out there, you need to learn the business. The fact that half the agents I talk to don't understand what closing costs are, right? So if it's $550 and you ask for $5 back, the actual offer is $545, right? Simple math problem. And they're arguing with me.
We've all been there. Yeah.
So my point.
Hey, full price offer with a $10,000 credit. No.
Right. But my point is that you should really go work for somebody. And not that I'm a big Gary Vee fan, but it is kind of like what he says, work for somebody for free and just learn it. What I did is I used to sit in my old man's office and I would just sit there and he would be there almost 11 o'clock every night. And I would listen to what he said all day long. And I'd say, why'd you say that? What does that mean? What's the point of so this way that when I actually had business, I could, but my clients, I think that's the big thing that new people have to focus on is understand.
Awesome. But everybody in today's climate, everybody wants it now. They want success now. Instant
gratification though. You know what though? We can't, I feel like an old man when I say that too, I had to walk uphill both ways. It's been like that since the dawn of humanity. Everybody's, they had that mountain when we were in the 80s and then underneath it's building it, those little cheesy posters and stuff like that. So I think now it's just more glorified because of Instagram and Facebook, but the reality is nothing worth having is easy. So the people who put in the time, you look at all these top producers that are there now, none of them are day one for the most part. They're all people who've been around.
Yeah, if I can jump on that for a moment, because Matt, you had your father, like you mentioned, you were there, he was there till 11 o'clock at night, which I know is early for you, but seeing, listening to him talk and all that, Emily, you said your mentor, Karen, right? And then when I first started the business, my wife, Lindsay, was a realtor first. I had instant mentorship, right? From day one, here's just that is so invaluable. So you're right. A lot of people skip that part, but learning the business, well, how do you learn the business from somebody who knows what they're doing?
Yeah. I think a lot of people want, as Laricy said, it's glorified real estate agents on Instagram and social media. And I think that's only kind of the end product to stepping into these beautiful condos. Anyone can go to a broker's open, can go to a, luxury listing and showcase what a kitchen looks like. But I think it's really kind of the behind the scenes, the grit and, work and long hours that have created these top producing agents. And everyone wants a lot of instant gratification these days. So when I'm mentoring the women on my team, I'm really bringing it down to the fundamentals, the things that they need to be doing consistently, educating themselves on the market and the ins and outs. And that is what sets the tone in my opinion, for a true top agent, someone who's great for their clients, educates their clients, and really puts their best interests first.
Perfect.
Think about how easy it would be now for new agents to learn this information. You have podcasts out there. You got so much article, like if I was a new agent, I'd be reading, 20 to 25 articles every single morning. I would listen to every podcast there is out there talking about real estate. I, would follow their brokers around. I go to all now they have brokers open, you can find easy and stuff like that. I mean, like there's so many ways to educate yourself.
Yeah.
I think the problem, what Emily, you said is that like, everybody just wants to post on Instagram that they closed a $50 million house, right? And that's it. So it's like, it's the grind. Nobody wants to say I sold a $50,000 house, right? But the reality is, you do 50 of those.
We should post that. Wait,
Yeah.
that's the next one on this Zoom to post.
$18,000 closing, right.
I remember I sold land a couple of years ago, and I think I helped my client buy it for $10,000 many years ago. We sold it for $4,000.
Yeah, but everyone wants to see these pretty kitchens and houses and stuff, but and those are much easier to showcase and online, but there are a lot of other lower price point listings that are helping people get to where they are today.
It's a stepping stone. So Leigh, I'm glad you're going over all this because I have notes here. We got mentorship, and I know there's different things to help build your business, but these are kind of the main takeaways. Mentorship, get a good mentor. Emily, thank you. Client relationships from Karen. Learn the business from Matt. Leigh, I know you kind of just walked into success with your wife, just
Yeah, her coattails, no problem.
There you go. But I'm curious if you have something different or if Kevin does.
My thought on it was, sorry, Leigh, to cut you off. So I 100% agree with what Matt's saying. The education side of it, land on a good team or search out, education. But after that, my advice to a new agent isn't really any different than if, your team's goals, right? So like we're a really high database team, right? And the math is for every 10 people that you have in your database with full contact information, phone, email, and mailing address that you run a proper touch campaign, 30 to 40 touches over the course here, you're going to get one deal. So if you're a new agent, you want to sell 25 deals, you got to have 250 people in your database, right? So for us, our goal next year is sell 300 homes. We don't have 3,000 people with full contact information. We might be closer to 2,000. So it means we need a different lead source. And that's typically, a cold lead of sources. It's Zillow, it's Circle Prospecting, it's Bizbill's Canceling Spot. And that's kind of the math at whether you want to go to 50 deals, 100 deals, 200 deals. So that's kind of how I would think of it, whether it's a new agent or a team that had team goals.
Awesome.
That's good. No,
Are you getting that 10% return?
Yeah, we're pretty much spot on. Yep. I'm
curious if Joel or Rosh has anything, because you guys are obviously building your business too. If you guys have any nuggets, if you want to chime in.
I'll jump in, Joel, real quick. So something that has really helped CBI succeed. One is we hit the 6-year mark. So we've got some repeat clients that have been happy with us. So it's a built-in producer. But what we've done really well over the last, I'd say 3 years is less technical education and more context. And, all of our inspectors are very well trained, but if you can't convey that information about what's important, what isn't to a client, and we've worked very hard on doing that because I have no idea what people have in their back pocket. I don't know what their timeline is. We just basically say, hey, knock out 1, 2, and 3, chip away the rest of the report. You guys are gonna have a great house here. That's what they need to hear. It's not knock out 60 things. It's overwhelming. It does nobody any good. And I think that's not the intent of an inspection. We're almost more at the consulting standpoint of, hey, here's what you have, here's what you need to do, and here's your timeline for the first 3 things, here's your timeline for the next 5 things. And once people have that information, they can see a game plan, then they can see the house, and then they can see themselves living in it. And it's not our job to keep deals alive, but it helps them understand what we're doing and what their timelines are.
I love that. I'm in a cutout. I'm gonna make sure I heard you properly. You said less technical education, more context, right?
Right.
Okay. Somebody nod. Maybe it froze. I don't know. Okay.
Oh,
No, we got it. Some people got disconnected.
That was great.
as well
Thank
with
you, Rob.
that.
Yeah, man. Good.
Totally. We talked about, we can touch on this for a moment, but institutional home buying, like when everyone saw Zillow, all the iBuyers buying up homes, and it really, hasn't really touched here too much, but like, what's your take on how that has affected the market or what you've seen on that.
So,
Well, my first thought, Lee, was, sorry, Matt, boy, does it make it the conversation easier when people are hung up on their Zestimate. Like, you just gave me a layup, right? Of, Zillow is hemorrhaging money because their estimates are wrong. So at least from that note, that conversation should be easy to debunk real fast.
I mean, the reality is though, is that like the economy is really strong. And when the economy gets really strong, people do weird stuff. In 2019, we talked to Zillow's, one of their execs on one of our podcasts about it. And I got an argument with him on it and said that it'll never work because, when the markets are strong, it's great, but there's overhead costs. Okay. And there's volatility that you can't predict. And at the same time, if you can't sell this house immediately, you're going to have sitting on it, carrying costs, taxes, assessments, etc. And at a certain point, it's going to tip over. I said it reminded me of, if you guys remember in the 90s, the biggest threat to realtors was for sale by owner.com. And everybody said for sale by owner.com was going to take out realtors, right? And then it was the internet was going to take out realtors. And then it was Zillow was going to take out, right? There's always something new. And the newest hot topic for the stock market, because the market's so big, is that these guys are like, hey, we can do our job better than realtors. So we can predict stuff through market trends, through stocks, and we're going to start buying homes. And the reality is that, like, to be honest, that's like the least threat we have. And we actually got a lot of business from the iBuying. So Zillow was iBuying out in like Denver and California, and we were getting their buyers relocating in Chicago. And I will tell you, I've been through their back end systems, and it was probably the worst, most unorganized thing I've ever seen. And my buyers were even saying that this was the worst experience they've ever had in their entire life. So, of course, it's always off experiences. So when you have Purple Bricks and Redfin Offers, now what's it called? Keller Williams is getting into the iBuying they're talking about, et cetera. Like, it's never going to last. It's just not. It's not a long-term thing, because guess what? The economy is not always going to be this good. And when the economy goes to medium or bad, as we saw once COVID hit, when everybody suspended their iBuying, this is naturally not going to be a big thing. And I think, to your point, Kev, is that it only makes us stronger. Because now when somebody falls on their face and they fall on it hard, it's kind of great to be like, well, when somebody's like, hey, well, this estimate's wrong. It's like, well, the fucking guy, those guys started a business and failed within 24 months. And you're going to tell me that they know more than I do? Like, I'm still standing, And I think that's actually like a huge win for us realtors. And when you're going on an appointment, we're all going up against these like big companies of like how the stock markets and all these guys in New York are going to take away realtor jobs. You can say, when's it going to work? Because everything they've tried to do is fail.
That's the bet. Like, the market is the great equalizer. Like, you have a client or like you said, Wall Street, but even clients that think they know everything, you can know everything, but the market will really show what happens. Right. And like, they're so sure on their pricing, they're so sure on whatever, but the market's really going to dictate.
Yeah. You can always take that, that information, and pull as much data as possible and put it into spreadsheets and try and calculate the property value, but it's not, it's only someone who's really in the trenches of the market and has experienced a lot of different markets who can speak to the best strategy. Anyone can put a number on a property, but it's really the implementation of the strategy, time of year, and other exterior factors that help create success for clients. So I don't really get fazed by the whole iBuying. If anything, last week was great when Zillow announced, all of that was going out with their, iBuying not working out anymore. But I just know that if we're giving, well, I guess I'll reframe. I always think that people will want an advisor, a trusted advisor, someone who can guide them through the process, someone that they can ask questions to and have more instant responses. Who is guiding you? Are you typing into a chat, a computer, or you're assigned someone? I don't really know, how that iBuying, all of the ins and outs and how that works. But I really look at myself as how can I add value to my client's experience and not become, replaceable.
And remember this, people always come back to experts, and this is what you guys are doing. There will be that lowest common denominator where somebody wants to go online. And the same thing with the mortgage business. They've created these online companies for pennies on the dollar that come and go. And people in my industry get all worked up about it. And they do come and go. When you're trusting one of the biggest purchases in your life, it's like trying to go find a discount eye surgeon or a discount heart surgeon. It doesn't work. It comes and goes, and people like me, I'm not afraid of it whatsoever. And you guys are the top of the top.
Chicago should be afraid at all. I think Chicago has many different markets in it, and there's a lot of luxury real estate downtown. And you want to know, a lot of people want to know who's stepping into their house, and that as a listing agent, you're representing your client in the best possible way, showcasing its best features and very knowledgeable on the product and market, and being able to express that to buyers that are coming inside.
Well, the greatest thing is and kind of going off what you're talking about, Emily, is that like there's so much information out there, and they need experts, because like it almost, you have two articles and they contradict each other, right? And like how many times have we been getting this year where Chicago's got the greatest price growth of all time to keep talking about? And then my clients in River North are calling me like, hey, prices are up 13%. Why is my condo not selling? I'm like, well, it's on a micro level basis. Like, what are we selling here? Like a single family home in the suburbs where average market time, in the 80s was, 300 days, and today it's 10 days. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that's what they need us for. And Joel, you brought up a good point. Like, iBuying is like calling Comcast. Like, you can't get a hold of these people, and these people are the ones that are supposed to be buying your house. So I think it literally, all of that's been happening lately has just been strengthening all of our positions.
Agreed.
Agreed.
That's a good pause real quick. Let me get a screenshot with everybody smiling. All right. Do not be like my children and smile for 1 second, then stop. So the rule of thumb, when you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. All right, ready? 3. This may or may not be in a future issue of RP. 3, 2, 1. All right. See if we nailed that in the first time.
Hey, Andy, you got a lot of attorneys that are in your magazine. Also, for everybody else on here, what are attributes of a good attorney that you like? How do you, what makes a good real estate attorney?
Communication, for sure. Like, I can't stand it if there's somebody that wants to use like an attorney that like literally emails will go out and they'll be like, oh yeah, did you hear about this? And it's like, I'm the last to know. So I think like my attorneys always keep, me in the loop, copied on everything. Same thing, all working towards the same common goal, but educating the clients as well, I think is important. So I would say probably the biggest thing is keeping lines of communication open.
Perfect. Emily?
Something I love that my attorney does is, let's say, when we get a letter back, he always provides his recommended responses. So instead of the client's mind going, out to left field, he already has really given them a playbook of how we should be responding. And again, communication, if he knows that something will create a bit of a flare up, messaging me directly first so that I can be the one to interpret it for the client before, it becomes some email blow up. Yeah,
that is awesome. So really like communication, but also collaboration, that it's like we're working together, not just dropping a bomb on the without you knowing.
Yeah, he's great at anticipating things. I mean, it helps when he has years of experience, but I found recently with some clients who want to use their own contacts, a lot of attorneys, it's like a copy and paste game. It's about analysis and anticipation, and that's who I want on my team.
I was going to say, thank God Illinois is an attorney state, where our team in Wisconsin, Milwaukee is not. And it is such a more labor intensive process. Like, you don't even want to know, like Matt, you'd lose your mind. Every single counter offer comes with a signed addendum. No emails, no phone calls. You want to close the closing date by 4 days, it's got to be it's unbelievable. So anyway, sorry to go on the side note, but I'm grateful we are an attorney state. I'll start with that.
The only thing I would add to it is power. I like an attorney that has power. I've never lost more deals day of closing than I have this year in my entire life. And, the fact that Illinois, technically to the laws, you could get away with murder, and you're fine with it, sucks. And as a seller, the reality is, with courts being closed, you can, just so you guys know, you can cancel a deal day of closing. There's literally nothing that's going to happen to you, because nobody's going to fight over escrow. It's going to take 2-3 years to get out of it, et cetera. And if you have an attorney that is super powerful and has a litigator that's extremely powerful, you can win that battle all day, because you can just send them a bill. But if you don't have one that has that litigation background or a partner at their firm, I got to be honest with you guys, you're kind of screwed. Because unfortunately, with the court system being so backed up, if you haven't experienced it, you're going to experience day of closings of deals dying and people saying, well, what are you going to do about it? And you could stomp your feet and cry and complain. But the reality is, guys, the God honest truth, you can't do shit. So if you got somebody that's super powerful, then you could do something. But if your guy has no litigation, he's going to refer you to somebody else. And your client's just going to pretty much go back on the market and lose everything.
Awesome. Great advice. In our few, I guess we have like just 2-3 more minutes. Yeah, one
Yeah,
more.
we got a couple more minutes. And actually, I checked the screenshot. There was somebody who was not smiling, and I'm not going to say who it was, but
Was it Tommy Choi? I think it was Tommy Choi.
it was Tommy under the bus. He can't vouch for himself. Hopefully, he's got a good litigator so he can do something about it. So I'm gonna. This is funny. I looked at everybody else. All right, virtual background. I'm changing back. But yeah, I mean, this is great. I appreciate everybody carving the time out and just hanging out with us this morning. These have been very fun. It allows people to actually like talk shop in a non-threatening setting. Okay, ready? Hold on. Ready? Matt, let's go. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Forgot the mug. Go. All right. I think we're good. Hold on. No, you smiled too big right there. We got to do it again. I'm just kidding. No, this was great, everybody. So you guys know the drill. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we're going to wrap this up. We're going to cut the live feed in 3, 2, 1. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. But seriously, okay, we're not live anymore on Facebook. Grateful for everybody. If you want to do, you guys know the drill. If you want to do another one of these, shuffle the deck, get some different realtors, different partners on who you kind of want to jive with. Happy to throw it together. Wish you a productive rest of your Tuesday. Peace out.
Thanks, Andy.
Fun.
Thanks so much. Bye, y'all.
Adios.
Bye.